Men, understanding how a woman reacts when she realizes you've lost interest is one of the most powerful tools in modern dating. Women notice subtle shifts in attention, energy, and emotional availability. The moment she senses that you are no longer emotionally invested, her behavior changes, her thoughts shift, and her desire to compete for your attention can spike. This is a psychological trigger rooted in attraction, attachment, and human behavior. Many men underestimate this. They think showing less interest will push her away, but in reality, it can ignite curiosity, reflection, and even emotional attachment. When a man steps back, stops chasing, and becomes emotionally independent, women notice immediately. They begin evaluating their own feelings and their options. This is why losing interest, strategically, can increase your value in her eyes. The key is subtlety and authenticity. It's not about playing games or being cruel. It's about demonstrating that your attention and presence are valuable, that you have a life independent of her, and that your investment must be earned. Women respond instinctively to confidence, emotional composure, and selective attention. When they realize you are no longer fully available, their mind and emotions engage in ways that make them take notice, reflect on your worth, and reassess their own behavior. This guide breaks down 7 behaviors and reactions you will observe when a woman realizes you've lost interest. You will also learn how to leverage this awareness to your advantage in a modern dating context, increasing her emotional investment while maintaining your independence and self-respect. Understanding these patterns allows you to navigate dating strategically, without desperation, and makes her prioritize you naturally. 1. She becomes curious. Men. The first reaction you will notice when a woman realizes you've lost interest is curiosity. Women are instinctively wired to notice when a man withdraws attention or emotional investment. Suddenly, she starts paying more attention to your actions, your energy, and even the small details she may have overlooked before. She begins to wonder why you're different, what has changed, and whether she has lost something valuable. Curiosity is the first sign that she is processing your absence and evaluating her own behavior in relation to you. Behaviorally, this curiosity can manifest in subtle ways. She may start asking more questions, bringing up past conversations, or trying to engage in topics she knows you care about. Her tone might shift, slightly softer, playful, or even testing. She could comment on things you do, your accomplishments, or the way you interact with others. These actions are not coincidental. They are her way of measuring your worth and trying to understand why you are no longer fully available. Psychologically, this reaction is rooted in attachment and human desire for what feels valuable and slightly unattainable. When she senses that your attention is no longer guaranteed, she begins to mentally invest in figuring out the situation. She recalls your qualities, the experiences you've shared, and the value you bring into her life. The brain responds to scarcity and unpredictability with increased focus and emotional energy. This makes her notice details she ignored before and amplifies the perception of your value. Curiosity also creates emotional tension. She might not express it directly, but internally, she is weighing her options and assessing how she feels about losing access to you. The uncertainty you've introduced by losing interest triggers a cognitive and emotional pull. She begins to reflect on your interactions, evaluate her priorities, and compare you to other men she might be considering. This is a subtle but powerful form of attraction because it forces her to invest mental energy without any action on your part beyond being composed and consistent in your boundaries. For men, the key to leveraging this reaction is to remain steady and confident. Don't over-explain or chase her attention to relieve her curiosity. The more composed and independent you appear, the stronger the emotional pull becomes. Let her curiosity simmer. Allow her to come forward or increase her engagement naturally. When she sees that you are not reactive, not desperate, and have your own life, her mind will focus on why you stepped back, increasing her emotional investment. Curiosity is the gateway to desire. Once a woman is curious, she begins to notice your high value and consider what she may be missing. This is the first step in the process where your strategic withdrawal of attention transforms into attraction, reflection, and ultimately emotional prioritization. 2. She tests you, men. The second reaction you will see when a woman realizes you've lost interest is that she will begin testing you. Women instinctively probe to see if your new emotional distance is real, if your confidence is genuine, and if your value is consistent. These tests are subtle but powerful. They measure your composure, your self-respect, and whether you are still a high-value man worth investing in. How you respond to these tests determines whether she will begin to prioritize you or disengage completely. Tests can take many forms. She might push boundaries, make indirect challenges, or question your availability. She could flirt in unexpected ways, tease, or even create slight tension to see how you handle it. These behaviors are not random. They are a subconscious measure of your stability and independence. Women instinctively assess whether a man who has withdrawn attention is still worth her emotional investment. She wants to know if your value is genuine and not dependent on her reactions or approval. Behaviorally, passing her tests requires calm, confidence, and emotional control. Never overreact, argue unnecessarily, or feel compelled to explain yourself. Instead, respond with composure, subtle humor, or clear boundaries. When she tests your reactions, your ability to remain steady signals that your interest is not tied to manipulation or desperation. It communicates strength, self-sufficiency, and high value, all traits that increase her desire and respect. Psychologically, testing works because women want to feel secure about the men they invest in, while also being challenged enough to stay engaged. A man who maintains his calm under subtle provocation creates a perception of competence, reliability, and control. She experiences a combination of challenge and emotional safety, which triggers attachment and increases her interest. Men who fail these tests by showing neediness, defensiveness, or desperation immediately reduce attraction. It's essential to understand that testing is not a rejection. It's an opportunity. Every test she throws is a chance to reinforce your value, independence, and emotional strength. She will notice how composed you remain, how consistent your boundaries are, and how much of your life exists outside of her influence. This is where men either solidify their high-value position or inadvertently push her away. The best approach is subtle and deliberate. Acknowledge her input without overcommitting. Maintain your priorities. Use humor and light teasing to diffuse tension. Show interest when it feels natural, but never chase approval. This balance demonstrates that you are emotionally independent, self-respecting, and worthy of attention. When you consistently pass these tests, she begins to feel tension and intrigue simultaneously. She becomes emotionally invested in understanding why you stepped back, what you represent, and whether she can regain the closeness she once took for granted. Testing is a powerful stage in attraction. Master it, and she starts prioritizing you without even realizing it consciously. 3. She becomes more attentive, men. The third reaction you will notice when a woman realizes you've lost interest is that she becomes more attentive. When a man steps back and shows emotional independence, a woman instinctively starts observing his behavior more closely. She notices small changes in his energy, the way he speaks, and even how he interacts with others. Her attention increases because she is evaluating what she might be losing and how much value you hold in her life. Attentiveness manifests in subtle and overt ways. She may ask more questions about your day, bring up shared memories, or comment on things she knows matter to you. She could mirror your behavior, match your energy, or make a conscious effort to be present in ways she hadn't before. Even small actions, like liking your posts, sending thoughtful messages, or referencing topics you care about, signal heightened focus. She's paying attention because your emotional withdrawal has triggered curiosity and a desire to reconnect. Behaviorally, this is an opportunity for you to reinforce your value without overcompensating. Respond with composure and subtle engagement. Show appreciation for her attention without becoming overly reactive or needy. High-value men allow her efforts to be noticed, but don't hinge their self-worth on her actions. By acknowledging her attentiveness without chasing it, you create a dynamic where she feels rewarded for her investment while still pursuing your attention. Psychologically, this reaction is driven by a principle women respond to deeply. Scarcity increases perceived value. When she realizes you are no longer fully invested, your presence becomes more significant. Her brain begins to attach emotional weight to interactions with you, increasing focus and mental energy toward you. This attentiveness is also tied to the feeling of potential loss. Women notice men who are selective with their attention, and that selectivity automatically elevates their value in her mind. Importantly, increased attentiveness does not mean you have regained control automatically. It's a signal, not a guarantee. How you respond to her renewed focus determines whether she moves toward emotional investment or loses interest again. Consistent boundaries, composure, and emotional leadership amplify the effect of her attentiveness, turning casual curiosity into genuine attraction and prioritization. Many men make the mistake of overreacting at this stage. They flood her with attention, apologize for being distant, or try to win her back. This undermines the effect entirely. Instead, match her engagement in a balanced way. Engage meaningfully when appropriate, maintain independence, and let her investment grow naturally. She will begin to feel the push and pull of attraction without overt effort on your part, which increases her emotional attachment and makes her prioritize you over other options. In short, when she becomes more attentive, it signals that she is processing your emotional distance and evaluating your value. Respond with calm, confident engagement to strengthen the attraction, reinforce your high-value presence, and ensure that she begins to invest in you mentally, emotionally, and even physically. Attentiveness is a key reaction that you can leverage to shift the dynamic in your favor. 4. She starts comparing men. The fourth reaction you'll notice when a woman realizes you've lost interest is that she starts comparing. Suddenly, she begins evaluating you against other men in her life, friends, co-workers, or even potential romantic options. This comparison isn't always conscious, but it's a powerful psychological response. She begins asking herself, "Who is this man? Why did I take him for granted? Could I replace him?" And ultimately, is anyone else as valuable or magnetic as him? This is when your perceived value skyrockets, because scarcity and independence automatically increase desirability. Behaviorally, you'll see subtle signs of comparison in the way she talks about other men, her stories about social interactions, or even in the way she seeks your attention indirectly. She might mention experiences with other men to gauge your reaction or test your interest in her. She may also reference past interactions with you or moments where she felt a connection to see how important those moments were to you. Her brain is actively weighing options and assessing what you bring that others cannot. Psychologically, comparison is triggered by the perception of loss. When she notices your emotional withdrawal, her mind begins evaluating both her feelings and her alternatives. She starts noticing qualities in you she may have overlooked: confidence, independence, humor, emotional intelligence, and the way you make her feel unique. This mental comparison creates a form of emotional tension that draws her back toward you, even if she was previously distracted or considering other options. The key for you as a man is to maintain composure during this process. Comparison works in your favor only if you remain emotionally independent, confident, and consistent. Don't compete for her attention or react defensively to implied tests. Instead, let her draw her own conclusions while you continue to demonstrate high value in your actions, decisions, and presence. This subtle display of worth positions you as the obvious choice in her mind because she sees you as rare and non-needy. Women are also drawn to men who balance challenge and security. As she compares you to others, she begins to notice that few men create the same pull, emotionally, mentally, or even socially. Your consistency, independence, and subtle unpredictability become the measuring stick she uses to evaluate other men. She starts to recognize that your presence brings unique energy and value that cannot be replicated. Many men make the mistake of trying to win at this stage. They overcompensate, become more available, or attempt to prove themselves through words or gestures. This breaks the effect entirely. True high-value men allow the comparison to happen organically, keeping their energy and life intact. They trust that their value will naturally become apparent. In short, when a woman starts comparing, she is mentally weighing your worth and your place in her life. This is a stage of attraction that works in your favor when you remain composed, confident, and independent. Comparison increases her emotional investment and positions you as the man she truly wants, creating a strong pull that makes her prioritize you over anyone else. 5. She becomes more affectionate men. The fifth reaction you will notice when a woman realizes you've lost interest is that she becomes more affectionate. This is a natural psychological response. When she senses a man stepping back, her subconscious triggers a desire to reconnect, test boundaries, and regain attention. Affection is her way of bridging the emotional gap she suddenly feels. It can be physical, verbal, or even through actions that show she wants to be closer to you, emotionally or socially. Affection manifests in multiple ways. She might initiate more physical contact, touching your arm during conversation, leaning in closer, or lingering hugs. She could increase verbal warmth, sending playful or caring messages, complimenting you, or expressing interest in your thoughts and activities. Even subtle signs, like remembering little details you've mentioned or showing enthusiasm for your plans, indicate that she is investing emotionally and seeking to regain your attention. Behaviorally, this is your opportunity to reinforce value without losing control. Respond to her affection with composure, reciprocate appropriately, but do not overinvest or chase. High-value men acknowledge warmth and interest, but maintain their emotional boundaries. This balance creates tension and desire. She feels drawn in by her own initiative, while you remain the anchor of stability and independence. Psychologically, her increased affection is driven by a combination of loss aversion and attachment mechanisms. Women experience subtle anxiety when they sense a man pulling back, especially one who has been consistent and high value. Her affection is a way to re-establish connection, test your reaction, and see if the bond can be reignited. This stage is crucial because it shows she still values you and is actively working, consciously or unconsciously, to maintain access to your attention and approval. Many men make the mistake of responding with desperation at this stage. They immediately flood her with attention, overpraise, or overcompensation. Doing so diminishes your perceived value and removes the emotional tension that is driving her affection. Instead, maintain a calm, confident, and composed approach. Recognize her interest, respond selectively, and continue to lead the interaction with intention and presence. This phase also signals that she is beginning to prioritize you over other men. Affection indicates emotional recalibration. She wants to make sure that the bond with you is secure and that your attention isn't entirely lost. When handled correctly, this affection strengthens her attachment, increases her desire, and positions you as the primary figure in her emotional landscape. In short, increased affection is a direct response to your emotional independence. It is her way of testing, reconnecting, and subtly competing for your attention. High-value men use this as confirmation that their strategic withdrawal or composed detachment is working. By responding with balanced engagement and maintaining your own life and energy, you amplify her attraction, deepen her emotional investment, and make her increasingly likely to prioritize you over others. 6. She becomes reflective men. The sixth reaction you'll notice when a woman realizes you've lost interest is reflection. She begins thinking deeply about you, the connection you share, and her own behavior. This isn't always obvious at first, but it manifests subtly in how she interacts, what she brings up in conversation, and even how she talks about her feelings or the relationship. When a woman senses a man stepping back, it triggers introspection. She starts evaluating what she values about you and what she might be losing by your emotional withdrawal. Reflection can appear in different ways. She might ask questions about past experiences or decisions, bringing up moments she remembers with you. She could reminisce about shared experiences or notice qualities about you that she previously took for granted. Often, she will reflect silently as well, replaying conversations or analyzing your behavior. Her brain is working to understand why you pulled away and what your independence says about your value. This reflection creates both mental and emotional investment, which is key to deepening her attachment. Behaviorally, reflection presents an opportunity for you to subtly reinforce your value. When she brings up topics that show she's thinking about you, respond with composure, confidence, and authenticity. Engage in a way that validates her curiosity without over-explaining your actions or intentions. High-value men use these moments to remind her, through presence, conversation, and subtle cues, of their uniqueness and worth. By doing so, you turn her reflection into emotional prioritization. Psychologically, reflection is triggered by emotional contrast and perceived loss. When you withdraw attention or show a lack of dependence, her mind naturally begins to evaluate the connection. She recalls your positive qualities, the energy you bring, and the way your presence makes her feel. This internal processing increases her desire and encourages her to prioritize you over other options. Reflection also strengthens attachment because she starts to connect emotionally to the idea of having you in her life, rather than just responding to your immediate attention. Men often misread this stage, assuming silence or distance means she has lost interest. In reality, reflection is a critical stage in attraction. Women need time to process, analyze, and appreciate the value you bring. Over-involvement or desperate attempts to regain control disrupt this process and diminish its effectiveness. Instead, maintain your independence, stay confident, and allow her reflection to work in your favor. Reflection also heightens emotional tension. She begins questioning her choices, comparing you to others, and recognizing qualities she may not find elsewhere. This internal evaluation drives her to take initiative, engage more meaningfully, and consciously or subconsciously consider how she can regain or strengthen the connection with you. In short, when a woman becomes reflective, it signals that she is mentally and emotionally processing your value and her feelings toward you. By staying composed, confident, and independent, you allow this reflection to turn into deeper attachment and prioritization. She begins to see you not just as an option, but as someone rare, high value, and worth choosing. 7. She tries to rekindle men. The seventh and final reaction you'll notice when a woman realizes you've lost interest is that she will actively try to rekindle the connection. After curiosity, testing, attentiveness, comparison, affection, and reflection, her mind and emotions reach a stage where she begins to take action. She wants to regain access to your attention, time, and energy, and she instinctively seeks ways to reconnect. This is the point where your emotional independence creates a magnetic pull that makes her prioritize you over other options. Rekindling can manifest in multiple ways. She might initiate conversations more frequently, send messages that are playful, flirty, or caring, and express interest in your life. She could invite you to spend time together, suggest activities, or make subtle efforts to align her schedule with yours. Sometimes, she will try to remind you of past shared experiences or inside jokes to re-establish emotional intimacy. Even small gestures, like thoughtful compliments or noticing your achievements, are part of this effort. She is signaling that she wants you back in her world on her terms. Behaviorally, this is your stage to reinforce high-value presence without losing independence. Accept her gestures selectively, respond confidently, and maintain your composure. Don't overreact, overcommit, or chase her attention. It will diminish your perceived value. Instead, let her feel the reward of earning your engagement. A man who allows her to work subtly for attention while remaining in control of his life becomes irreplaceable in her eyes. Psychologically, this is the most powerful stage of attraction. By losing interest, you triggered a chain reaction. She became curious, tested you, increased attentiveness, compared you to others, showed affection, and reflected on her feelings. Rekindling is the natural outcome of these internal processes. Her brain has now linked your independence with high value, emotional intensity, and desirability. She begins to see you not as just a man she interacts with, but as someone rare who commands attention naturally. Many men make the mistake of misinterpreting her rekindling as desperation or weakness. In reality, it's proof that your strategy is working. Her actions demonstrate that she is prioritizing you mentally, emotionally, and socially. This stage allows you to solidify your position as the high-value man she chooses without begging or compromising your standards. At this point, your role is to remain consistent, composed, and confident. Let her effort meet your standards, show appreciation without overextending, and continue living your life fully. This dynamic amplifies her desire and ensures that she invests in you both mentally and emotionally. By strategically withdrawing attention, you create a situation where she actively competes for your presence, making you the obvious choice over other men in her life. In short, when a woman tries to rekindle, it confirms that your independence and emotional detachment have heightened your value. She begins to prioritize you naturally, think about you constantly, and invest energy into the connection. This is the final stage where losing interest strategically positions you as the man she can't ignore, creating desire, attachment, and choice in your favor. Men, understanding how a woman reacts when she realizes you've lost interest, is a game changer in modern dating. The process, from curiosity to testing, attentiveness, comparison, increased affection, reflection, and finally, rekindling, is entirely predictable once you know the psychology behind it. Each stage is a response to your emotional independence, composure, and high-value presence. Women notice when you pull back because it creates scarcity, intrigue, and a sense of challenge that triggers desire. The power in this strategy is subtle. You don't need to chase, plead, or overcompensate. Instead, you remain composed, confident, and self-sufficient. By withdrawing emotional availability strategically, you force her to evaluate your value, reflect on what she may be losing, and invest emotionally in ways she wouldn't have otherwise. This creates a natural dynamic where she begins to prioritize you, think about you constantly, and even compete mentally for your attention. High-value men leverage this process without manipulation. They understand that independence, composure, and selective engagement are more attractive than over-availability or desperation. Women respond instinctively to men who balance confidence, emotional pull, and subtle scarcity. When done correctly, losing interest strategically positions you as a man who is rare, magnetic, and desirable, someone she chooses over all other options. The key takeaway: emotional withdrawal, when combined with consistency, self-respect, and high-value behavior, transforms attraction into prioritization. She notices, evaluates, invests, and ultimately acts in alignment with the connection she feels toward you. Every reaction, from curiosity to rekindling, is a reflection of your value and the power of strategic emotional independence. Stay confident, live your life fully, maintain your boundaries, and let her respond. When you do, you don't just create interest, you create choice. She will naturally gravitate toward you, and choosing you becomes the most logical and desirable option in her mind.